As the world erupted into the First World War in 1914, the Ottoman Empire, already weakened by decades of decline, faced a crisis that would mark its final chapter. The decision to join the war on the side of the Central Powers brought enormous consequences: military defeat, territorial losses, famine, and widespread violence. This period exposed both the fragility of the empire and the human cost of prolonged conflict. Among the most tragic events were the mass killings and forced deportations of Armenians, a chapter that remains one of the darkest in modern history. The Ottomans entered World War I with a combination of strategic calculation and desperation. The empire sought to reclaim influence in the Middle East, defend its remaining territories, and align with powers that promised support against European rivals. Joining Germany and Austria-Hungary seemed a way to preserve sovereignty and counterbalance the growing power of Britain, France, and Russia. However, the decision quickly exposed the empire's military and administrative weaknesses. Despite pockets of courage and skill, Ottoman forces were poorly equipped compared to modern European armies. Decades of military decline had left the empire with outdated weapons, inadequate training, and insufficient logistical support. On multiple fronts, from the Caucasus to the Dardanelles, the Ottoman military faced overwhelming challenges. While initial campaigns showed resilience, prolonged engagements, combined with disease and food shortages, sapped strength and morale. The Gallipoli campaign of 1915 stands as a testament to both heroism and hardship. Ottoman forces successfully defended the peninsula against a well-equipped Allied invasion, earning international recognition for tactical skill and determination. Yet the victory came at a tremendous cost in lives, with tens of thousands of soldiers killed or wounded. Even in moments of military success, the human toll highlighted the vulnerability of the empire. Elsewhere, the war exposed deep vulnerabilities in Ottoman-controlled territories. Fighting on multiple fronts drained resources and disrupted agriculture and trade. Food shortages became widespread, causing famine that affected civilians as well as soldiers. Transportation networks were destroyed, markets collapsed, and disease spread through crowded and malnourished populations. Ordinary citizens bore the brunt of military and economic collapse. The war also intensified internal divisions within the empire. Nationalist movements, already active in the Balkans and Arab provinces, saw an opportunity to push for independence. Arab revolts, inspired in part by promises from the Allies, further weakened central authority and forced the empire to divert troops from front lines to suppress internal unrest. The combined pressure of external war and internal rebellion created a perfect storm of political and social instability. Amid these challenges, one of the most devastating events was the targeting of the Armenian population. Accused of supporting enemy powers, Armenians in eastern Anatolia were subjected to forced deportations, massacres, and death marches. Estimates suggest that hundreds of thousands of Armenians died as a result of starvation, exposure, and violence. Entire communities were uprooted, and centuries of cultural and social life were destroyed. The tragedy left a lasting scar on the region and remains a subject of global historical significance. Other minority populations also suffered during this period. The chaos of war, combined with the collapse of administrative control, exposed vulnerable groups to violence and displacement. Economic hardship, forced conscription, and political suspicion created widespread insecurity. The Ottoman Empire, once a multi-ethnic society, held together through complex systems of governance, struggled to protect its citizens under the pressures of modern total war. The economic impact of World War I on the Ottoman Empire was catastrophic. Prolonged fighting disrupted agriculture and trade, leading to widespread scarcity of food and essential goods. Inflation skyrocketed, and urban centers experienced acute shortages. Families were forced to abandon homes, sell property, or migrate to safer areas. The wartime economy was unable to sustain a population already weakened by previous decades of decline, foreign debt, and systemic mismanagement. Internationally, the Ottoman Empire's alliances brought it into conflict with powerful enemies. Britain, France, and Russia not only fought on battlefields, but also imposed blockades and economic restrictions. Allied occupation of strategic ports and regions further crippled trade and amplified famine. The empire, unable to match the industrial and logistical capacities of its adversaries, faced a situation in which military defeat and humanitarian disaster were inevitable. Politically, the war accelerated the collapse of Ottoman authority. Provincial governors and local leaders operated increasingly independently as central control weakened under the pressures of conflict. Nationalist leaders in Arab and Balkan territories used the war to negotiate autonomy or independence, fragmenting what remained of imperial cohesion. The Sultanate's symbolic authority could no longer ensure obedience or loyalty, marking the erosion of one of the world's longest-lasting political institutions. As the war drew to a close, the Ottoman Empire emerged as a shadow of its former self. The Treaty of Sèvres in 1920 formally partitioned Ottoman territories among Allied powers and newly emerging nation-states. Anatolia, the empire's historic core, became the site of new political struggles, population exchanges, and the final attempts to establish national sovereignty under Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. The empire that had once commanded 3 continents and influenced global politics was dissolved entirely, leaving behind only a memory of former glory. The human cost of World War I in the Ottoman Empire was immense. Millions of soldiers and civilians perished from combat, starvation, disease, and forced migration. Cities and villages were destroyed, social cohesion disintegrated, and centuries-old communities vanished. For survivors, the war left enduring trauma, reshaped demographics, and altered the cultural and political landscape of the region permanently. In retrospect, the Ottoman Empire's participation in World War I highlights the vulnerabilities of declining empires confronting modern industrial warfare, global alliances, and nationalist movements. Decisions made in the pursuit of survival, such as siding with the Central Powers, exposed systemic weaknesses in governance, economy, and military power. The resulting tragedies, including famine, displacement, and mass killings, underscore the consequences of political miscalculation in a rapidly changing world. The story of World War I and the Ottoman Empire serves as a sobering lesson in the intersection of war, modernization, and social upheaval. It demonstrates how empires that fail to adapt to technological, political, and ideological change can experience catastrophic collapse. More than a military or political failure, the war revealed the human cost of a declining state, grappling with internal